there's always a 30-second delay, so it's not live right this second. So just give it a 30-second delay, and give me a second. All right, I need to see it on the other end. All right, it says we're live now, so let me just. Okay, hey guys, welcome to my regular Wednesday night live stream. Today I have the very well-known George Christensen. Thank you so much for coming on my program. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you to give me your time.
That's all right, dear.
Thank you. Can everyone hear us okay? Just before we continue continue on, I just want to make sure everyone can hear us. I'm pretty sure you can, but let me just check the audio. Hang on. I should have done this earlier.
Coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, I think it's coming through loud and clear. Okay, guys, before we begin, I want to begin our live stream with the tradition that I said I was going to do, and I haven't really done a very good job of continuing the tradition. So today's Bible verse, before we begin everything, is of Romans chapter 10, verse 9. If you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you are saved. I think that's nice and basic, and I wanted to start off with that today. Okay,
amen.
Yeah, amen. How good is that? I just discovered Catholic. You're relatively a faith-based person. I didn't realize this. I thought you were just a cultural Christian.
Yeah, so I'm Anglican, but come from the Catholic wing of that church, not the real trendy liberal progressive wing, the Orthodox Catholic wing. So we believe the Bible, but we also do some of the Roman Catholic stuff where we seek intercession from the saints. We have Mass. We have a sung Mass. It's like, have you ever seen the Latin Mass?
I have seen it.
Do. We have the English. So we have the English version. We have the English version of the Latin Mass. So it's sort of Old English terminology, but exactly the same movements and processions and sacrament, basically. That's
good. You realize, though, that you can go straight to God. You don't have to go to a priest or a father. This is what we were talking about off camera, guys. Relax. He's okay with me saying this.
Yeah.
But we won't actually get into any great detail. But do you want to comment on what I just said?
Do I want to comment on what you said? Well, look, look, you can go direct to God. I mean, that's true. Theologically, philosophically, completely and utterly true. There's something that you can call, that we call, trying to think of the term for it. And the reason I can jabber on about this is that I've studied theology formally. So I've just finished graduating with a postgraduate degree in
Congratulations!
In
I just got a diploma in political science. Sorry.
Thank you. In what? In what?
Oh, so you just got your diploma in theology.
In political science?
I got one in political science.
Wow, congratulations. There you go.
Thanks. Congrats to you.
Good.
Theology is great. I'm glad you studied it.
So there's something that's called perfect contrition, and we sort of say when someone is perfectly sorry for their sins, then they go direct to God. They're forgiven. But there's a question about whether you are perfectly sorry for your sins or whether you're just sorry because you might end up in the place where there's a lot of fire and pitchforks. So that's imperfect contrition, and that's where we go through the church, which Roman Catholics, Anglicans, Orthodox would probably believe that in general, the church was given the ability to forgive sins by Christ. When Jesus said to his disciples, said to the apostles, go out, you've got the power to forgive. Whatever you bind is bound in heaven, whatever you loose is loosed in heaven. That was the commandment to his first missionaries, his first bishops. to go and do this, and they have the power to do that. So that's why we believe in that. But there doesn't have to be a mediator. I mean, as I said, where it's perfect contrition, go to God, pray direct to God. There's nothing wrong with that.
Look who's made an appearance.
I see that. I see there's a few people that have made appearances on
but
here.
Tammy Candy is like one of my female friends in this space. I mean, there's Margaret, my friend as well, but like, and she used to work for you, correct?
She did.
We're all connected.
Tamara come up. Tamara had come up and did a lot of work during the, I can't remember which election campaign. I want to say 2016, but it could have been the 2013 election campaign, actually. So she helped me out immensely then. And subsequently, I got Tamara to do a bit of research work for me. She researched law and how Sharia law was I guess getting a foothold in Australia. So there's an interesting bit of research for her to do. It got her an article in the paper. I think they ended up putting an article of Tamara in the paper, and she won't mind me saying it, but there was an article of Tamara, and it had her in a bikini. And there's a lot of photos of Tamara in a bikini on Facebook and social media, and it had Sharia war.
I love Tammy. Tammy and I have done a couple of projects together. I was hoping to do some more with her, but she disappeared. But I still love the girl, and hopefully we'll be able to do something together soon, because we got a lot of media attention when we're together. It's actually quite funny. The last thing we did was femininity versus feminism, and we ended up on the radio talking about it. And I gave her the phone because she has media experience, whereas I don't. And they were trying to twist her words and make her sound like she hated all men. That she hated all feminists. And yeah, it was good. She did really, really well. So glad to be associated with the both of you. All right. I feel like there's a delay. I feel like the audio, there's a struggle. Can you hear me properly?
I can.
George?
I can hear you loud and clear. But there might be a little bit of a delay. We can thank the illustrious Malcolm Turnbull for bad internet.
Okay. By the way, there's a post circulating that I'm in that I'm going to fall in love with you. So I hope you don't mind that by the end of the end of today's episode, I might be really in love with you. Is that okay?
Well, here's hoping, and all of your watchers as viewers as well.
I don't know. Apparently, I fall in love with every guest. So, hey, George.
Hey, dear.
There's okay. Well, I don't mean. How you doing? All right. Let's. I don't mean to make the energy bad now, because we are getting along really well. But you're no longer on Twitter, and there's a specific reason for that. And I don't know whether you watched the videos that I linked you about the topic, but you were friends with Wilson Gavin, who ended up. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to comment on that? Do you want to talk about why specifically Twitter when in my opinion Facebook is far worse? And my whole takeaway from that is how evil the left is, for one, and two, my other takeaway is just that I don't believe in piling on. I don't think piling on is right. I don't think it's helpful, and I think people on the right do that as well. But go ahead. I'll let you talk, because I think the floor is yours.
You're right. You're 100% correct with what you've said. I mean, maybe at some stage in the future I'll revisit my self-imposed Twitter exile, but I've deleted my account. Like, and I could almost foresee it. Twitter, I mean, I know you say Facebook is worse, but with Facebook, right, for the flamers that are out there, and that the left are just massive flamers and do this sort of pile-on activity, you can block them. They're gone. You can't do that on Twitter. So Twitter is a different dynamic where people can just hang crap on you and encourage other people to do it. And you turn on your Twitter feed and bang, all you're just faced with is a barrage of insults. And I don't really care about that about myself. I see it as a politician all the time. Who cares? But there's other people that don't sign up for that. They shouldn't be exposed to that. And sadly, Wilson was one of those people. I mean, I cannot imagine the barrage. And I said to someone months and months earlier that, Twitter is going to be the cause of a suicide one day. It really is going to be the cause of a suicide. And once that happens, I'm off. And it happened with someone that I knew, which made it all the more raw. And like I got to say, I wasn't best friends with Wilson or anything like that, but I'd met him quite a number of times, and he was a great young bloke. And these people, there's stuff they were saying about him even after his death. I mean, they were trying to say, oh, he was confused about his sexuality. But that had nothing to do with why, why he did. It really didn't. But it was just more sort of intolerant insults that were coming from the left, even after someone had died. You're right in that the right does this stuff too. Unfortunately, we've learnt it from the left, and we try and copy so that when someone says something wrong, does the wrong thing, we jump on them. Oh, we've got a got you moment. Well, why do we do it? We do it because they do it to us, and because it's so successful. So we fight back like that.
Yeah, it's evil.
I hate fighting like that. I hate fighting. I can tell you, I wasn't in politics though. If I wasn't a politician, I would probably still be on Twitter, and I would be chewing these people, spitting them out that carry on like this. I would be the worst return flamer against that activity.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that it wasn't someone who I knew, but it's funny because being in this realm that I'm in, someone that knows someone. It's like 1 to 2 degrees of separation. It's not like, oh, I know Michael Jackson through 7 degrees of separation because this person and this person, it was very raw. I remember telling my mum about it, and I started getting teary about it. And then that's why I wanted to make the videos I made about it, because I wanted to present the right narrative, because the wrong narrative was being promoted, and everyone was saying, oh, he was a tormented soul because he was part of the concern. No, he said many times, even Dave Pellows, no, he wasn't. Yeah, and the parents stated that, but it didn't matter. The left still kept saying, no, he was tormented. That's what it was. No, it was you guys assisting in, if I could have, I would have gone up to him and told him, stop looking online. Throw away your laptop, let's go camping or something for 3 weeks or something that could have made him stop looking. And even lately, one of my moderators, Margaret, says, just don't go online for a while. And I'm fine. I'm an adult woman, and I'm not tormented by anything. But it's still not a good idea to dwell on what you see online. And unfortunately, maybe he was too young and he wasn't able to really reconcile or to deal with it. So I'm really sorry for the loss of losing your friend, or even though you said you weren't super close, you still knew him, and it still hurts, and it hurt me, and I didn't know him. So it's just a perfect example of exactly how evil and vile the left is, because as much as I say the right does it in a calculating way. The left does it in an evil way to hope for the result that they got. That's the difference.
Yep, you're right.
I think so. Okay, so let's move on to another topic. Julian Assange, you're one of the people who is lobbying for him to come home. Why is that? And what's your overall thoughts about Julian Assange?
Because I'm a conservative, right? So I believe in freedom. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of the press. I believe and the right to publish. I used to be
me.
a publisher. I used to run my own publication. I used to run my own
Student advocate.
online blog before I was into politics. Oh yeah, well there was that one going way back. We can talk about that.
I'll ask you about that in a moment.
I used to run actually a proper newspaper, So like I have that real fundamental philosophical belief that crosses so many different issues. Julian Assange is but one of them. He is an extremely prominent who has probably written articles that I might have and done things that I might have disagreed with, because perhaps at the time, wrongly, I've got to say now, I was in favour of the Iraq War, and I probably would have been thinking, well, he's just another person blamed George W. Bush. I get a very different mindset in the whole situation right now. I was wrong. I was clearly one of the people who were believing the wrong thing. We shouldn't have got into that war. But what he did was he published material that exposed some crimes that the US had engaged in. And I couldn't care whether it was the US, whether it was Russia, or whether it was China or Israel or whoever. That's fair game. That should be public record stuff. He published it, and now there's a series of sort of payback actions against him. And this is just simply a payback action. So, and that's the philosophical reason around the freedom aspect of it. There's a second aspect of it, sovereignty. This is an Australian citizen. He's not a UK citizen. So he's an Australian citizen in a UK jail facing a UK court that are talking about extraditing him to the US. Well, hello, he's our citizen. Like, you shouldn't be having him in a UK jail. He didn't break a law in the UK. The UK shouldn't be extraditing one of our citizens to the US. And quite frankly, he didn't set foot on US soil. So what do the laws of the US now all suddenly apply to every single person here in Australia? And where does that end? Do the laws of Saudi Arabia apply to every single person here in Australia? Do the laws of China apply to every single person in Australia? Again, I could care less which country it is. I love Trump. I think he's great, right? But the issue is about sovereignty and about freedom. Can I actually end on that? And this is going to cross me into the conspiracy theory line. I don't think Trump cares so much about the Julian Assange issue. I think that his Secretary of State, Pompeo, cares more about Julian Assange. Pompeo used to be with the CIA. Trump actually, it is said, Trump does it, but it is said that a congressman and someone else went over to see Julian Assange. We know that they did go to see him. Apparently they were sent by Trump to ask Julian to spill the beans on who the source was for all of the Democrat National Committee email leaks, the Podesta files, Hillary Clinton's emails, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Assange would not give up his sources, right? Assange wouldn't give up his sources. The people who it is claimed were representing Trump said that if you were to do that, we would find a way to make this go away for you. So that to me says a couple of things. One, Trump, if he was really offering that, and I think he was, doesn't consider Assange really any great criminal or threat to the United States. It also says something else, that the whole allegation is crap, and that Assange actually knows who really did leak the DNC stuff. It come to him. He does know who leaked it. And I won't say any more about that, otherwise I'll be painted as a conspiracy theorist, apart from it's interesting that WikiLeaks offered a reward for information leading to who killed Seth Rich.
Sorry.
Are you right?
Sorry. I have COVID. No, just kidding. Keep going.
Keep your distance. No, I'm done. I'm done.
You don't talk that way about the girl you love.
There are so many reasons. Oh, sorry, dear. Maybe get a glass of water and a bit of lemon and honey.
See, that's better.
But
Sorry, keep going.
there's so many reasons why I support Assange. Freedom, sovereignty, but also, the left are out to get him. Well, the left are out to get him. They hate what Assange did about the DNC email leaks, the Podesta files, and all the rest of it. They blame Assange for Donald Trump being in power.
Yes, they do. And isn't it great that he did release those documents so we really know how disgusting Hillary Clinton is and what the difference is between the two of them?
We would have had President Clinton now. We would have been at war with Russia. We would have been.
Easily.
And, did you read any of that stuff that came out in those Podesta files and all those emails?
I read some of it. I didn't read the whole thing. The spirit cooking? What?
Yeah, the spirit cooking. You read about that?
I did read about that.
That's some weird.
That's demonic. That's who's running
shit.
the world, or who's trying to run the world. Is the demonic presence? Which sounds insane to the atheists.
They tried to palm it off as, it was just an artistic thing. Oh yeah. So what you? I don't know about you, but even in the arty circle of friends that I might have, there's no one that invites people around for a meal where they do some sacrificial pouring of blood and semen in a bowl and then say sort of diabolical words over the top of it. That is weird.
Satanic. It's very weird.
Crowd that Clinton was running around with.
And all of that, sorry, I don't mean to go on a tangent. All of that is actually connected to something else. I'm supposed to be releasing this Saturday a video about child abuse, sexual child abuse. But I can't release it because there's too much information, and all of that you just said about the spirit cooking and the sacrificial stuff, that's all connected to pedophiles. That's all connected to Hillary Clinton and the spirit cooking, not to literally to her, but so I'm going to do a video on it, and it's going to have to be a series because there's so much to unpack with child abuse, and that's all part of that weird demonic crap. It's disgusting.
There's a lot of satanic stuff that's linked with that.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from satanic stuff to so this is not a question that my friend Tim actually told me to ask you this, and I thought it was a very good question to ask you. Should North Queensland become its own state? Because this was a controversial issue at the time, because this was something that you were pushing for. Do you want to comment on that?
Look, yes, it should become its own separate state for numerous reasons. I won't go into all of them apart from we're a big state. It's just unreasonable to think that we have residents here in North Queensland that are as far away from Brisbane as it is, and yet they're governed by Brisbane. We can govern ourselves. I guess the big issue is this there when it comes to that. It is we always forever have been crying poor that, we don't get our fair share. I guess that's, par for the course if you're in a regional area and not in a capital city. The bigger issue is when you get a bunch of these sort of city latte sipping, extreme green activists that then suddenly start using their electoral might to control the government and to hold the government to ransom, to oppose coal mining, to oppose or to crack down on fishing, to put in measures that are going to impact on farmers. I mean, we've had all of that sort of stuff. Fishermen are now restricted, commercial fishermen restricted in terms of their catch. Some of them have had their livelihood basically halved. We've had like the coal mine, like that Adani mine held up. And there is definitely a push within the government that's been stifled because of the federal election. But there was a push within the Queensland government to basically stop thermal coal mining. The farmers, whether it's water runoff, the issues they're dealing with, whether it's land management issues they're dealing with because of ongoing state laws, this all impacts upon our livelihood. So this is how we make our living up here, by digging up stuff, by farming stuff, and by fishing stuff. That's how we make our living up here. And then suddenly you've got a bunch of people down south who are saying, well, you shouldn't be able to do that anymore, or at least not easily. So where does that leave us? That leaves us, the poor cousins who get enough and actually can't earn a living. It's just not on. So that's why people want to separate the state.
Well, look, worst comes to worst, my friend Dean, who you already know, is is making his own micronation. So you can be the president of Resolution if you want.
I got to tell you something very, very funny.
Okay.
There's a guy in my electorate.
Yeah.
And I won't name and I won't give my opinion on it, but a guy in my electorate who come up with his own country. He wanted to cede his property because he had ongoing issues with the council. He declared his sovereign republic of this place, and he got me round to the house. And I got to say, I never felt so scared in my life because of the weird characters that were there. But anyway, the whole thing. I listened for about an hour to this whole thing about we've got a constitution, we're separating, and my eyes are sort of getting wider and wider until it gets to the punchline. He wanted me to be the prime minister. So I turned down the offer to be prime minister of this.
How embarrassing!
I turned down the offer to be prime minister of this republic.
Did he succeed? Is his property seceded from Australia? Is it a micronation?
He did not succeed. I think that the council took him to court. The council won, and the police came and sorted out the problem. So it's not a micronation.
Poor little bugger.
He had no army.
No, he needs an army. Anyway, we'll figure out our little resolution. You don't have to join in if you don't want to.
I can't be a dual citizen, even of a nation. I'd get kicked out of Parliament if I'm a dual citizen.
I had two passports for a while. I had a Spanish passport and an Australian passport. Didn't seem to be an issue. But it wasn't a dual citizenship.
You can't become a member of Parliament until you one of them up.
Well,
and you could probably make a good member of Parliament. You might need to scrub some of the you'd make a good member of Parliament, so you can consider that. But you might need to scrub some of the YouTube interviews that you've not won.
I know, because you're well aware of my past. Probably no thanks to Tamara. Well, I don't believe.
I'm not, but now I'm going to ask.
Well, I genuinely believe that you shouldn't be painted with a particular brush based on interviews, because people you interview, you're trying to get an opinion. Doesn't mean you share that opinion. I don't share the opinion. I don't share all of Fraser Anning's opinion, and I interviewed him. I'm interviewing you. Does that make me, I don't know, someone who believes that the North Queensland should be separate from the southern part of Queensland? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not opposed to that opinion. That was just an example. But yeah, anyway.
If you love me, you would believe that.
Can you say that again?
I said, if you truly loved me, dear, you would believe that.
Oh, okay. I love you so much. I'm just going to listen to everything you say and be subservient now, okay?
Wow.
All right.
But you talk about that sort of stuff. What about what they did? The flaming and the pylon did to Bettina Arndt. Sorry, Bettina Arndt.
Sorry, but who are you talking about? Who are you talking about in relation to Bettina?
Well, you're talking about interviews that people have done, and saying that is some sort of just because you've interviewed someone doesn't mean you agree with them. Well, Bettina interviewed someone, and they went back and dug it out, and they said, "Oh, look, she talked to this horrible man, who apparently was someone that committed an actual offence." No idea what it's about, but they piled on her after she won that award for Australia Day. And
that was disappointing.
Again, that pylon is so bad.
That was bad. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, it's very, very mean that see, that's a pylon. That's a pile-on, and I don't like that. As someone who has experienced pile-ons by people who I thought were friends, by someone who has experienced pile-ons by the left. Yeah, you're right. Bettina Arndt has done decades and decades of work to be recognized with that accolade, and for them to try. Was it stripped? Or wasn't it?
No, I don't think it's been stripped yet.
Good.
And hopefully it's not stripped. I don't believe she should be stripped. If the Australia Council stripper of that award, I will go off.
Oh, good. I'll go off with you. We'll make a collaboration video with like fists in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be very disappointed. Fight the power. So let me see what my next question is. Okay, so all right, this is from someone. My friend James Fox Higgins has his own Facebook type of platform, and it's a very good platform, and I like to use it anyway. And this person Barry wanted me to ask you this, so I'm going to ask it. During the current times, do you think that the Australian public would be more receptive to the idea of a plebiscite on immigration? What do you reckon? I think it's a good idea. What do you think?
You're talking about plebiscite and immigration. I don't know about that, because what are you going to ask? So referendums and plebiscites generally about issues that are to do with the Constitution, right? Plebiscites are almost yes and no questions. What's the yes or no question you're going to ask about immigration?
Do you want to get rid of these people?
I don't know that it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
Which people?
That was a joke.
So
my people, the Latinos.
Yeah.
No, that's an American problem, not an Australian problem.
I got a friend who's migrated to South America because he wanted to be with more Latinos, so he would be definitely
good on
him
him
on that one. But the reality, though, that immigration is a serious. I don't think that it needs to have a plebiscite. You just need to have people in power in government that are articulating what the majority of the public think, and the majority of the public think that immigration should be heavily restricted. And, we're not into the open borders policy. I think that it's only right that we could say that there's a bunch of countries that, in Africa, a bunch of countries in the Middle East where there is a high level of violent extremism, and we don't want to be importing that sort of problem into our country. I got to say that I'm also starting to be that there are not everyone. I don't want to get people to get this wrong. There are certain people whose loyalties are to the Chinese Communist Party first and foremost, and you're never going to be able to weed them all out if they lie. But if your loyalties are to the Chinese Communist Party and not to Australia, then I also don't think you should be here.
That's, I think, completely fair. I mean, my family came here, and my father's a citizen. There's a right way and a wrong way.
I don't think though that Chinese people should be excluded from Australia. I've got a very good Chinese friend. One of my favourite lecturers of all time was Chinese, and they tell me the same thing. The biggest victim of the Chinese Communist Party is the Chinese people themselves.
Oh, of course. I don't think. I think an issue that we have on the left and on the right, and is this collective thinking, right? And part of that is, black people all commit crimes, or Chinese people are all causing problems. Obviously, it's a certain number. Like, we're being bought out. That's the problem. The problem is the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And obviously, a lot of that comes with Chinese people buying our land and stuff like that. So I understand why people talk in generalizations, because it helps for the conversation to be quickly. But it's not, generally speaking, we know in the back of our heads that, there's always an exception to the rule, for sure.
So one of your listeners, or viewers rather, has asked a question that goes to what I just said. How do you know that people aren't commies in disguise? I guess you could
Where?
say, asked, how do you know that they aren't commies in disguise? It was Margot, I think. How do you know that they aren't commies in disguise? And I guess the same thing is with people from the Middle East. Well, how do we know that they're not fundamentalist, violent extremist Muslims in disguise? I guess you don't know. You have to err on the side of caution. There just needs to be thorough background checks. But I do believe firmly that any country where there is a high level of violent extremism, that you just say, no, sorry, no more.
Yeah, exactly right. I can't see that question
That's
to put
not-
on the
that's not the
screen, but
view.
I don't want to put it on the screen yet because
That's
we're
all
not up to the question round. So what was that? What were you going to say?
Sorry. No, let's continue.
Okay. So my next question is: some years ago, you campaigned to have Doctor Who in Australia. Why was that even a mission for you? It's so random. Are you a bit of a
Was a bit
nerd? Do
random.
you like your Doctor Who? Because I like
Totally
nerdy.
and utterly. I wish I could show
Go.
this open.
It's all right.
Well, I've got right beside a cupboard that is the TARDIS.
Oh my God!
That's
the TARDIS!
I've got a cupboard.
I know what that is.
TARDIS.
That's
And
awesome.
in fact, hang a second.
Okay.
Wait.
Oh my God. I'm a nerd because I got excited.
I am a total and utter nerd. I mean, I've
This
got
is awesome.
Daleks, for goodness sake. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
By the way, I'm a nerd too. Yeah, don't worry. We're in that camp
complete-
together. I love DC
Great.
comics, not Marvel, DC. That's awesome.
Oh, really? Yep. I didn't get too much into the comics apart from. So this is, there's nerds and then there's nerds, and I got into the 2000 AD comics, Judge Dredd. So that was really random and obscure, but for a while there, I absolutely loved the Judge Dredd comics.
Okay, cool.
I think I'm a bit of an Anglophile. That's why I love Doctor Who, love Judge Dredd.
That's cool as. Sorry, the fact that I got as excited as I did, and I didn't even watch Doctor Who, but I know what that TARDIS is, shows that I'm a serious nerd too. I'm just missing glasses and a nasal voice. That I haven't seen before, but I'm just excited because you are excited. Because I love you.
That evil, it's called a Dalek. It is, there is a living being inside this metal casing. Not really, but that's in the show. And
okay.
it is wants to be the supreme ruler of the universe. Basically, it was created as a symbol for Nazis, and they exterminated or killed anyone that wasn't like their own. So,
okay.
Nazis, communists, whatever.
So there's a question on screen for you by Kane Adamson.
What's the question? Sorry.
Which Doctor is the best, George?
Okay, I see.
This is a controversial question with a controversial answer. But this is going to be the worst thing you can do out of everything we discuss.
Boring. Yeah, super out of boring and just say Tom Baker.
Okay. It's either classic or something.
He was 7 years in the role.
Okay.
Classic. He's the guy with the scarf. Honestly, the new series, well, probably Tennant. Again, that'd be a boring answer, but still Tom Baker. And as far as I'm concerned, the more I watch it, the old series just craps all over the new series. Whether it's Tom Baker or John P. or those guys are great.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else I have in my list of questions.
I didn't answer the question about why I wanted it here.
I mean, obviously, because why not? It would be fun, right?
Yeah, it would be fun, and it would have been
a hoot.
I wanted them to film in my electorate, right? That was That was the whole point, and it was kind of like a bit of an economic boost to have Doctor Who filmed here happen. We can only live and dream.
We can only live and dream, exactly. Well, some years ago, you actually got in trouble, like me. You have a justifiable concern for Islam, and you made some comments on Indonesia's live cattle trade. So, what do you think that specifically aroused the backlash, and what were your concerns regarding the cattle trade?
So I said it was in Parliament, and I can remember it as clear as a bell. We had all these people screaming about farmers, about farm groups, the Meat and Livestock Australia not doing their job and all the rest of it. And I said, you've criticised the farmers and the farm groups and all the industry. The one thing that I haven't heard from you people, talking to the Labor Party and the Greens, one thing I haven't heard from you people, any condemnation of the religious beliefs that actually cause what they're doing. And for that, I was basically told I was racist. Someone actually got up in Parliament and asked me to ask the Speaker to make me apologise for it. So I'm not going to apologise for that.
No.
It's just ridiculous. Actually, someone said the worst thing that they'd ever heard said in Parliament. Well, I thought to myself, you ain't heard much that's bad then, because that's just common sense. I mean, they're bashing these cows like they were, because and slicing their throats open while they're alive and just doing this because of one reason, their religion. They've got to have these cows killed before they're dead. Oh, so it sounds stupid. They've got to have these cows throat slit before they're dead. That's what their religion says. They got no problems with that, actually. I really got no problems with that. Do it the appropriate way. But what I have an issue with is do-gooders that are running around saying, "Oh, blame the farmer, blame the farm group, blame the street," but they won't say about the people that are actually doing the wrong thing and what's motivating them to do that.
Their religion.
You said it.
Well, it's true. I'm going to start popping up some questions. I still have my own that I haven't finished, but this is the first one. It's a light-hearted question. I think you'll be all right with it. I think you can handle it.
I saw that. Oh, goodness me. Van Damme. I mean,
I know, right?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Did Van Damme do that one where he was like bebeing hunted by people that were killing off Vietnam veterans? I think that was a Van Damme movie.
No idea.
I can't, because I was going to say Street Fighter, but I really don't want to say Street Fighter. So it would be that.
He did do Street Fighter though.
Movie. Yeah, I know, but it wasn't the Van Damme movie. I'm sure there was a Van Damme movie where they had all these rich people that were going out of the way to hunt humans, and the humans they were picking on were Vietnam veterans who were homeless, and Van Damme was one of them. And I'm pretty sure that was the go, and he got his payback and killed these a-holes that were going around killing Vietnam veterans.
Fair enough. So this is a question from my friend PC Leaks Pete. Do you see the National Party ever splitting from the Libs and possibly forming an alliance with One Nation?
Oh, look, anything's possible, but if you're asking about circumstances now, no. I mean, I don't foresee that happening. Look, in Queensland, obviously, we've only got the Liberal National Party, and that's where I am in Queensland. So I'm actually dues that I pay are to the Liberal National Party. So we're never going to have a split here in Queensland. That also makes things difficult in terms of splitting the federal coalition. I'm just going to fix these wonky glasses for a second. Hang on a tick. It makes things difficult for splitting the federal coalition. But the National Party hasn't always been in coalition with the Liberal Party. So in South Australia, in coalition with the Labor Party, actually. And you wouldn't rule it out. One thing that I'd say, I I sympathise with a lot of the issues that Pauline Hanson raises. I sympathise with a lot of the issues that Bob Katter raises. But I wish to goodness that we could have kept Bob Katter in the National Party. And I wish to goodness that we could have kept Pauline Hanson and or her belief systems within the Liberal Party. You got to remember, Bob Katter was originally a National Party MP and Pauline Hanson was originally a Liberal Party candidate.
Mm. Did you speak? There's a delay, I think.
Yeah.
Are you speaking?
Did it not come through?
All I heard you say, I don't know. Oh no, your face is moving again. You were frozen for a moment.
Maybe it.
Is the last thing you said that the last thing something Pauline Hanson was in one party and Bob Katter was in a different party? Was that the last thing you said?
Yeah. What I was saying is that you got to remember that Katter came from the National Party, and I wish he would have stayed in the National Party. And Pauline Hanson came from the Liberal Party. Bob Katter used to be a National Party member of Parliament. Pauline Hanson was a candidate.
Yes. No, that's correct. Will you get in trouble for interviewing me because I'm scary to the Liberals? I'm just curious.
I have no idea. I've listened to your stuff. I've watched your stuff. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, what's why would I get in trouble?
I don't know, because the world is stupid. But I like knowing that you listen to my stuff. It's really funny because the more your profile starts to grow a little, someone's like I have my friend Dean and then myself where we're sort of help each other out and to get guests, and then it's always like, oh yeah, I know her, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So yeah, so thank you for sometimes watching my stuff. That's nice. So this is my friend from America. He has his own channel with my friend Daniel Wagner. Is there anyone in Australia similar to Trump in office or might run in the future? I have an answer for that. My answer is Ricardo Bossi, but I think he's asking you the question, so I'll let you answer.
Who is Ricardo Bossi, though?
Ooh, so he was part of Cory Bernardi's conservative Australian Conservatives Party, along with Sophie York. Have you heard of those people? No.
The names ring a bell, but I know the Australian Conservatives, obviously, because I was friends with Cory Bernardi. Look, do we? I mean, we've had someone already that was a straight shooter like Trump. His name was Barnaby Joyce. He was the Deputy Prime Minister for a while. But I do understand what's being got at then. Are we going to have someone from the right who is fiercely nationalist and conservative? I think some of those elements are there in Scott Morrison, and people will disagree with me about that, but some of them there.
No, I agree, actually. I do agree with that.
With Donald Trump. But I think that in the future, I think that nationalist movement is going to become stronger and stronger.
I hope you're right.
And the anti-globalist sort of movement will become stronger and stronger. And eventually parties will be forced to take positions that are more nationalist, that are more anti-globalist. And I can't see that coming from the Labor Party. I really can't. I mean, there are shadow ministers out there today attacking one of the Liberals, Andrew Hastie, for criticising China. I mean, when you're acting like that, well, you're going to need to do a few somersaults and twists to sort of pivot yourself to a real pro-nationalist sort of perspective. It'll come from the right, and it'll come from the Liberal Party. I don't know who it is yet, but it'll come from the Liberal Party. The reason I say it'll come from the Liberal Party is because that Donald Trump come from the mainstream Conservative Party there, the Republicans.
Nebula, are we good with that question? Can we move on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Nebula Protestar asks, does Mr. Christensen believe all Aussies should have access to guns? Yes, all Australians, including 4-year-olds. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I don't think that. I don't think 4-year-olds should have access to guns.
Oh, I was just adding my 2
I
cents to be
don't.
silly. I think he meant adults.
So it allows me. It allows me to say no, though, and I don't think people that have criminal records should have access to guns, and I don't believe people with serious mental health issues should have access to guns.
I think that's fair.
So I'm not someone that believes in universal ownership. I am someone who, I come from the country. I certainly know the need for fine country. Yeah, I think that that there should be greater ownership of guns. Even I probably am someone that philosophically believes that if I want a gun to protect my house, I should be able to have that.
Yeah, of course.
The law, unfortunately.
No, I understand. All right, so the next question is, in your opinion, was Turnbull and Julie Bishop involved in the George Papadopoulos spying scandal against Trump? You can do with that question what you will.
I have no idea. That is the honest truth. That I have no idea. I know that there were people in the Liberal Party definitely wanted Clinton to win. That's all I have no idea about that allegation that's been made.
All right, let's keep going down. Oh, okay, cool. Here's my friend Never Rest. Does Mr. Christensen have any opinions on the infiltration of the Young Nationals by people with the alt-right immigration reformist beliefs?
Look, I saw there was a big media spray about all that a while ago, trying to say that Young Nationals had been taken over by Nazis, is how they described it. I mean, look, if you're a Nazi, obviously, your beliefs are incompatible with the National Party. But if you're just against immigration, if you prefer a zero immigration policy, or if you prefer an immigration policy that's, not wanting to see people coming into the country from areas that have huge violent activity, you're not a Nazi and you're welcome in the National Party. I have those views. So I know someone who was very unfairly maligned in the Young Nationals when all of that happened, and that person was in no way, shape, or form a so-called Nazi. So
there's no Nazis anymore.
They tried to smear a lot. No. That's the claim that they go on with. But
no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I shouldn't have done that. There's neo-Nazis, and then there's Nazis who all died out. Neo-Nazis, that's all. I was just gonna correct you. It's neo-Nazis, not Nazis. Sorry, keep going. Correct,
neo-Nazis. Well, there was a claim that these people were neo-Nazis, and I can tell you that a lot of it was rubbish.
No, you're right. Like the label is just thrown at anyone. I'm one as well. I don't know how. I just apparently am. Okay. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. Here's one by Philip Cunningham. It's a good question. I've sort of stopped referring to myself as a conservative based on this reason. The Conservative Party of Australia is the one that introduced abortion. The Conservative Party of Australia is the one that legalized same-sex marriage. So I don't really think we're very good at conserving. So I don't like the label conservative based on that practical element. So yeah, what have you conserved?
What have we conserved? Well, you got to remember that the Liberal Party, and I'm not in the Liberal Party, I'm in the National Party. The Liberal Party is a party that's made up of two different wings, the Liberalists and Conservatives. I'm in the National Party. The National Party is, as its party platform says, a conservative political force. What have we conserved? Well, we've tried to conserve some things. We've tried to. Unfortunately, we find that the left and the progressive agenda is just very well organised, and they seem to win a lot of these campaigns. And I think that the problem there is that we're not so well organised on the right, on the conservative side. We haven't seen any real success in pushing back against the tide, I guess, of leftist progressive. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see instead of the victory being, oh, we stopped them from doing that, the victory being, yay, we got this done. But it never, ever is the way. It's always reacting against something. Problem. Can I change that? Probably not. Probably not. I'm very despondent about Western civilization in general. And a lot of these things that people talk about, you say, oh, well, you're in what you can do it, but government can't stray too far from the main views of its populace. So it's about culture, and when the culture shifts, you've got a big problem if it's heading in a certain very bad trajectory.
Yeah. So this is a question from the man that I was in love with 3 weeks ago when I interviewed him. So anyway, apparently, what is the background?
Cool avatar.
Yeah, it's a cool avatar, isn't it? What is the background behind you, and is that a Doctor Who reference? Well, it says conservative one, so I don't think that's a Doctor Who reference.
It says conservative one, and that is a house. My finger working. That's a lighthouse. So conservative one. The red writing underneath it says defending traditions and freedom. It's a podcast that I've started.
Podcast.
Conservative1.com. A bit of cross promotion here. If you go to conservative1.com, you can see there's.
You should have given me the link, and I would put it in the description box below, which I'll now place after, because he'll have me on as a guest, won't you? Yeah. Like, just assume. Yeah.
I'll do that. Return the love. Return the love.
Return the love. All right, let's go down. All right, I don't see any good questions there, so let me go back to my own questions. Let's have a look. Okay, so I hope you don't mind me asking you this. When you ran the student advocate, sorry, so if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but you ran the student advocate like years and years and years ago, and you called women stupid if they had a crush on Will Smith. I had a crush on Will Smith. What's your problem?
Well, the thing is, and I will answer this
you don't have
absolutely now, because it just shows you about fake news. So when I first ran
I got my
Parliament,
information from BuzzFeed.
It's sort of, yeah, well, there you go, BuzzFeed.
BuzzFeed. Sorry, go.
Enough said.
But
look, this was first run bizarrely in the News Limited press when I was running as a candidate back in 2010. So they did this big expose. So someone kept hold of a student newsletter that I had written was 19, had kept hold of it for over a decade, and then gave it to the media. I mean, I had no political aspirations back then that's just how weird the left are, that you would keep a dodgy student newsletter of which there probably was only about 300 copies. Anyway,
that long ago,
and then they lied about it, right? Okay, there was some pretty crude stuff in there that you could have said, right, well, that's a homophobic joke. Yep, okay, take that on the chin. Bad. You could have said there was some edgy stuff in there against Aboriginal race-based welfare. There was some stuff in there about that. But the fact is that article you're talking about was utterly satirical. It was a piss take, and it was actually having a go at men, at men not being, able to pick up women. That's what, if you read it, you would know that's what it was about. But instead, they just ripped out that one line. And they said, "Oh, he said women were stupid." And that's how the media and just smash her. I mean, that they more than that. Look, it was wrong, but I could have lived with that. But there was another claim that they made, and the claim that I was anti-Semitic. Well,
I'm anti-Semitic as well, among everything else. So you're not, and I'm not. Yeah.
Oh well. I'll tell you where their claim was that I was anti-Semitic. So I literally cut and paste an article that I got off the internet and put it in this newsletter. And the article was about how Oxford University was releasing a politically correct version of the Bible. And in this politically correct version of the Bible, it did a whole heap of things. There was a removal of like connotations or descriptors because of its racist connotations. God was going to be referred to as the mother, father, removal of all sort of gendered language. And there were a couple other things. And one was going to be the removal of the passages, which are the infamous accusation that the Jews were responsible for the death of the Christ. So all I was doing was repeating something that the Oxford University had said. Well, I was repeating what Oxford University said it was going to do in this politically correct version of the Bible.
Gotcha, which made you...
And then I sort of ended saying, let's just leave the Bible alone, let it speak for itself, thanks very much, was my point. But for saying that, they said, oh, so you're anti-Semitic now as well. It's like, actually, I've got a great-great-grandfather that was Jewish, so I don't know how.
Oh, there you go. Well, you could. You still could, but it would be retarded if you were. But yeah, it's stupid. Like, yeah, you hate yourself. Like I hate myself, because I'm a national. Well, I've never said I'm a nationalist. If I have, I haven't meant to. But I'm definitely a patriotic Australian. And being in the circles that I'm in, people think I hate my own people, the Latino people, and that I'm all for white supremacy. I'm not for white supremacy, but I am for Australia first. It's not that hard to guess, to figure out. So Nebula Protester. Exactly. You guys mentioned spirit cooking and Podesta emails earlier. Does George ultimately believe Pizzagate is real?
I've heard about Pizzagate. I haven't seen any proof of Pizzagate. So do I believe it's real? I don't. Perhaps someone could enlighten me with further information about it, but I've heard about it, but that's about it.
Fair enough. Are you in favour of a state bank for Queensland?
I think we should have a national development bank, actually. I think Barnaby Joyce went in to create the Regional Investment Corporation, which was essentially an agricultural bank. So, we started that process, but I think we need to go further. So Queensland did have a state bank. It had the Queensland Development Corporation. And could resurrect that, but I think we need to do it nationally, actually. And I think that the best time to do it is after this whole coronavirus crisis, and start building stuff, start doing some national development stuff with a national development bank.
Yeah. Well, Resolute TV, and you met him before, Dean, wants to get Barnaby on here. Hook us up, bro. No.
Just go ask him. I will. Only for you.
Oh, it's love. I think I have more questions on my Word document. It's funny, isn't it? Are we silly? Oh, what are your thoughts on the current state of the country? And if you could run everything yourself. Oh my God, my earpiece is coming out. If you could run everything yourself, would you be telling people to isolate? Oh, sorry. In trouble.
Would I be telling people to isolate?
Yeah, would you be telling people to isolate, or would you just be telling the people who are sick to isolate and for everyone to carry on as they are, because the economy is slowly going to crash. We're going to owe debts for I don't know how long, and people are suffering from other things like anxiety and suicide. So how would you run things if you were running the country right now?
Look, when this all broke, I was very worried about it. Very worried about this pandemic, about the spread of this virus, and about what this virus could cause. We have dodged a major bullet here in Australia, and I think that pretty much the reason that we've dodged that bullet is because the Prime Minister shut the borders to China. He shut them quickly to Iran after that, and he shut them to Italy, and actually he shut them to the rest of the world.
Yeah, he did well with that.
He brought in a 14-day quarantine period mandatory, which ticked off a lot of people actually. But he did all of that, and I think the result that we've got is because of that. I got to tell you, I'm not gonna second guess the captain, not in a crisis. So
Fair enough.
they've done what they've done based on the best information to them, and I'm not going to second guess the captain. I would say, in general, that I am concerned overall about any sort of infringement on liberty, even when it's for an altruistic reason. And I very much hope that after this event, don't hope, I expect that all the machinery behind this is taken down. We don't need this after this pandemic is gone.
We don't need what? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
We don't need all of these strictures. All the machinery of these restrictions needs to be taken away once this pandemic is over.
Yeah.
Nothing in terms of restrictions, laws that are relating to the restrictions, nothing can be left. That I guess that's people's fear, is that you give government an inch, they take a mile. Well, we taken the inch, we need to go back an inch once this is over, perhaps even more.
Yeah. This person didn't ask a question. I feel like they're just trying to state something, but they ended it with a question mark. Is COVID-19 a ploy by the Chinese funded and controlled UN, etc., to destroy the West and implement Chinese Communist Party rules across the globe? Oh, so is it? Okay. What do you think about that?
Is it? I don't think it is. I think that there are some serious questions that China's got to answer. I think that the government is at the moment talking about holding an inquiry into the origins of the Wuhan coronavirus. And the name Wuhan coronavirus does show us the origins. Did it come from a Wuhan wet market, or did it come from a Wuhan Institute of Virology? And I mean, we've had scientists out there that got published in Nature magazine saying that it wasn't manufactured in a lab. No one's suggesting that it was manufactured in a lab. There is natural breeding of viruses that goes on in labs, and that's been put out by reputable sources is it was most likely accidentally released from this lab because of poor handling and safety protocols. I think that we're eventually going to find out that's exactly what happened, and then China tried to cover it up. More than that, the issue is that they cut off their own country to people from Wuhan. So they locked down the borders, the internal borders in their own country. At the same time, they let 5 million of Wuhan citizens who potentially, a lot were infected, obviously, they let them go to all corners of the planet, and they spread that virus when they went there. So why did China do that? Why did they lock down their own borders? Obviously because the virus was as bad as what it was, but let it go everywhere else. Very big questions that need to be asked and answered, and I hope those questions are going to be asked in the course of some international inquiry.
So if the government make it mandatory to have a vaccine for COVID and Australians don't want it, should they resist? Because it shouldn't be mandatory. It should be an option, and we don't know the ingredients.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I can't see this being mandatory, really. I mean, mandatory to have any other vaccine, so I can't see it being mandatory to have this vaccine.
Well, there's already a freaking app. There's an app trying to track us. I'm not downloading the app.
Yeah, but the app's not mandatory either. So
no,
and I got to tell you, like, I'll probably disappoint you on this one, but
go ahead.
I was also very, very against this app when I heard about the idea on privacy grounds. But since I've understood the functionality of the app, the safeguards that are built into the app and legislatively around privacy, I'm not so concerned about it. I've downloaded the app. And I
am
was
disappointed
someone that when I
hard.
heard it, I went, "Oh, Big Brother." Oh.
It is, but fair enough. That's what you think.
I understand it.
Well, we can't get
if you
married
don't
yet.
want to download it, don't download it. If you don't want to download it, don't download it. That's what I'd say. It's your right, just like it will be your right as far as I'm concerned about not having a vaccine. But as you said, something about getting microchipped up. I'll draw the line at microchipping anywhere, actually, let alone there. So,
the Book of Revelations, my friend.
That really is. Yeah, there ain't going to be a chip in my hand or forehead or anything like that.
Yeah, they say it's going to be here. That's what they say. Okay. George, the mainstream parties have supported open mass immigration. Should Australia remain a majority white European-based society? I think that's a fair question.
Should Australia look, I think Australia should remain certainly a culturally European society. That will probably mean that, if you change the ethnic makeup so much that you don't have that, it's not going to be culturally European. And why I say cultural, I actually don't mean European. I mean English. Actually, I mean the freedoms, the democracy, the whole philosophy that out of England and Great Britain to establish Australia. I want to see that culture retained. And yes, it's quite obvious that if you allowed Australia to be, I guess, which is not happening, but if for instance the dominant population in Australia was from the Middle East, would not have that culture anymore.
Absolutely.
So it's a hard question. I don't believe in having a race-based society. I believe, though, in a society that's true to a certain culture.
No, I agree with that. Are you looking on the side, chat? Are you looking on the side?
Yeah. Who's this? Yeah, I am.
No. Okay. Go to the private chat. All right. So let's keep going. All right, here's one from Port. What should Australia do in terms of trade with China? We don't manufacture anything. We have CCP spies everywhere. The CCP lied about Corona and have Muslims in concentration camps.
So I'm the chairman of the Trade and Investment Committee of Parliament. And just as this all broke, I actually started an inquiry, and the inquiry is looking at a number of things. It's looking at our relationship with China. It's looking at whether we've put too many eggs in that basket, and we certainly have. It's looking at what we can do about it, how that relationship economically, including with foreign investment, has impacted our national economic sovereignty, our national security. It is a really, really in-depth inquiry that I'm going to be calling the China inquiry. And it's going to look at our whole relationship with China and how that is affecting our sovereignty. And it'll be a very important inquiry that I hope that many people will be submitting to and giving their views about this matter too. So how do we deal with it? That's how we deal with it, by being involved in that process that I have established to give people a voice, and ultimately have to go to government with recommendations. They will have to respond to it.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. Sorry, I'm just writing in the chat. Sorry, I know it's rude. Okay. Okay, there it is. All right, so let's go to another question. George seems to understand the dog. That's not really a question. Okay, so let's go to what should... I think... Oh no, here's another one. Okay. What are Mr. Christensen's thoughts on the app? We kind of already actually sort of discussed that one. But what actually... Yeah, you have covered it. But what are your personal... Go ahead.
I have downloaded it, yep.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, however,
I have
on
downloaded
the app? Yes, you've downloaded the app. But what are your thoughts on government overreach overall? Do you think it is the government's right to know where we're walking? Do you think it is the government's right to take children away from us because we don't want them to transition and the parent is considered the abuser? Do you think it's okay that they tell us not to smack our kids? Like, there's so much government overreach. It's slowly creeping in and people are sort of dormantly okay with it until you realize one day that you have no rights really over your own kids. So forgetting the app, government overreach looks many different ways.
Yeah.
It's layered. What are your thoughts on everything I just said?
Well, I agree with you. I'm against government overreach, particularly where it's compulsory. I'll say this about the app, then not talk about the app. The app's not compulsory, and it's for a specific, But moving away from that, and sorry, just before I move away from that, the app also doesn't track where you go. It only tracks the contacts that you've come in contact with. So that's part of the reason.
Okay, I suppose that's distinguishing.
It's fine. Look, I'm against even private firms trying to track where you go. Invasion of privacy is something that's just shocking, shouldn't be happening to any citizen. You talked about the state hinging on the family, and that is an issue as well. In Scotland, the government of the day there tried to set up something where you can go and Google this, it's absolutely true. It seems so far-fetched, but this is absolutely true. Government of the day, the Scottish National Party, tried to establish a system where every child would be able to appoint someone as their guardian. So someone in addition to their parents. So I think they were called the public guardian for that child or something. There was some special name they gave these people. And so there was a list of people that could be, and it could have been a public servant or a doctor or a teacher, a myriad of different professions that were these special people that were able to be the child guardian. And that person had the ability to countermand the child, to countermand the parents where there was a disagreement between the parent and the child. So if there was something that broke down in the family and the parent said, no, you've got to do this, and the child said, well, actually, I want to go and get my guardian to adjudicate on this, the guardian could come in and basically overrule the parent. It's completely and utterly crazy. So
wow.
This was a big sign of the end goal of where absolute Marxists and socialists want to go. They want to see the disintegration of the family. They don't believe in that institution. And their ultimate aim is to try and find legal mechanisms to break it down. So we've got to push back on that. We've really got to push back on it.
I completely agree with that. Sorry, I lost my spot with all the questions, but I will sort of let you know that in the chats there's a recurring theme. So I think, I'm about to touch on it. The Philippines or Philippine women. Do you want to say anything on that?
I've seen it pop up in your chat feed. That's fine. Copped it many times from the mainstream media. Look, all I say about it
say
is
what you want.
Malcolm Turnbull's written his book now. Malcolm Turnbull's made a whole heap of accusations that I believe he was previously making anonymous. He's making them now public. There is no proof for the allegations that Malcolm Turnbull is making. My wife comes from the Philippines. So that's that. And the only other thing about it all is that Malcolm and others in the press were trying to paint out that there was something illegal that occurred. Now, no one should be in this position. I had an allegation, this is public knowledge, I had an allegation of a criminal nature made against me, and the federal police assessed it, and the federal police found that allegation to be completely unsubstantiated, to be without any information, to be without any evidence. I got a letter from the Australian Federal Police that said they rarely write sort of letters, but they were saying that there is absolutely nothing untoward here. But yet Malcolm's written about it again in his book, and the media reported again. So, I got broad shoulders. It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. Well, I would call that a pile on myself, but okay, let's go down. If you need to go, you let me know, but there are still more questions here in the chat, but I know you wanted to do just an hour. It's almost been an hour and a half now.
All right, we'll go for an hour and a half and crack it off.
Okay, no worries. Okay, let's just go down. I lost my spot, so I'm going to have to just continue. So guys, if there are any questions that I missed, I apologize. I lost my spot. It just sort of went, it's hard to control on this end. Okay.
I see someone else has asked. I see someone else has asked more about this and talking about other claims. I mean, again,
other claims. I don't see that. I don't even know where you're looking. But okay.
Well, the media say Dia's a neo-Nazi. I mean, is it true?
No.
Just because someone says it in the mainstream media, do we just say, "Oh, well, we better believe that"? I mean,
people like to believe the media. They pick and
having
choose.
Gone through that, I'm actually of the view that we need stricter defamation laws, that if media say something and they cannot prove it, then they shouldn't be able to say it whatsoever. But they do. They run fake news all the time, and we just got to look to see what happens over in America about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a question by Never Rest that I was about to put up, and then it just disappeared. So what are your thoughts on 5G towers to be used to track our movements once we injected with the nanochips in the corona vaccine? And we were talking off camera that you're using 4G and how pixelated you look.
Yeah, look, I've got no comment on that. I've read this stuff about 5G. I'm not sure that I believe it. And,
I'm still unsure about it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot going around on the internet about 5G and how it might be harmful to us and all the rest of it, but I haven't seen any real proof of that claim. In fact, I've seen others saying that there is proof against that claim. I think it sounds like a very good dystopian fiction story, but I need to see some reality behind those sort of claims.
So this is one of my friends.
Benjamin's
he's one of my moderators. He does, yeah. Do you want to answer that? How are we going with getting religious freedom of speech properly allowed? If I want to say something about God, I shouldn't be punished for it. And it seems we're getting further and further that way. Israel allow.
So we've ended up with a situation where we're talking about
Yeah, no, go.
We're with a situation where we're talking about a religious discrimination bill, and a religious I would prefer we to be talking about a religious freedom bill, because when you use that word discrimination, suddenly you're talking about stopping people from saying something about religion. Well, I don't want to stop people from saying something about any religion. If you think that I am nuts because I ask Mary to intercede for me to the Holy Trinity, then that's your right to say that you're nuts. If I think
you're nuts,
the imam down the road's nuts, well, there you go. I'm nuts because I believe in that. Well, that's fair.
No,
it's a belief system, right? And belief systems. But it is. A belief system should be able to be criticized.
Of course,
you
yes,
know,
we
and
agree.
that's why laws that are anti-blasphemy laws are just wrong.
Mm,
You should be able to criticize the belief system, and you should be able to take on people with it. But where I draw the line is when people start getting excluded and segregated, discriminated against, I guess, in the workplace or in public life because they believe what they believe. And so there's two elements to that. There's one where you've got the state being engaged in it. That's the worst element. So I could talk about the Catholic Archbishop Julian Porteous, who wrote a brochure, wrote a booklet that he sent out to Catholic school students, which was talking about the Catholic Church teaching on marriage. So that doesn't seem to be too peculiar to me. Catholic Archbishop sending out to Catholic schools a booklet on the Catholic teaching on marriage that he was asking Catholic school students to take home to presumably their Catholic parents. I mean, what was wrong with that? I couldn't care if he was sending it out to Buddhists. Actually, it's a belief, and he should have been able to send that out to anyone. But for that thought crime, for that publication, he got dragged before the Anti-Discrimination Tribunal down in Tasmania. And while the matter wasn't proceeded with, the tribunal head at the time said words to the effect of, he certainly had a case to answer, and that they wished that they wished it would have continued. Why did he have a case to answer? The claim was because he put forward his views as fact rather than as opinion.
I see.
Well, you know, that's the thin edge of the wedge. I mean,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, but you've got that, so that needs to be ended. And I've got to say that the discrimination bill that's before the Parliament would most likely end the ability of these anti-discrimination tribunals to do it to people. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you've got the Israel Folau stuff that you talked about, where it's a private company that's saying, Israel, because you did this, said this, posted this, or whatever, that's you know, something that was in connection to his faith. It was a paraphrase of a section of the Bible.
It was
Romans 1, I think it was.
Was it? I thought it was Galatians.
It was a very bad
it might have been Romans. It was adulterers, liars.
I might be wrong.
No. You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah,
you're probably right. Go ahead.
But whatever it was, he paraphrased the Bible, put that on his
Insta.
That had nothing to do with his words. He didn't do it while he was on the football field, and yet suddenly he was losing his job for it. Well, I think that's wrong too. And so we need a space in which we need some sort of mechanism, a space in which we can have people exercise their freedom. We can have people say what they want to say, do what they want to do outside the workplace, not be penalised in the workplace. We should be able to have people say what they want to say on religious matters, matters of faith, without having the fear of being dragged before a government tribunal to explain themselves because they're upset. That's what needs to happen here. And more than that, there's many health professionals as well who disagree with abortion because of religious reasons. And it is such a touchstone issue for a lot of people of faith that there should be protocols in place for those people to put their hand up and say, sorry, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Buddhist, or whatever I am, I'm a Jew. I believe that life is sacred and I don't want any part of that, and there should be no governmental or professional blowback on me whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, pro-life is one of the main things I fight for, because I am pro-life. Are you pro-life? I know that was an example. I just was curious if you're pro-life. Oh, good to hear.
Extremely pro-life. I think that's the worst thing of our times. I mean, the pagans sacrificed babies to God. They killed them. The Romans used to have a form of abortion. They consider abortion. Basically, kid was born, dad didn't like it, so the servant went and took it out into the wilderness and left it there to be eaten by the wolves. So we railed against all that stuff in the past. We turned into a compassionate society, and now it's like we've gone 360. There are so many unborn being killed, more than probably in any era of our time, even when they did child sacrifices. Crazy.
Very crazy. PC Leaks Pete, question: do you believe in the concept of Judeo-Christian or just Christian? So this is quite a controversial issue in the right-wing circles, because you have the right wing that's pro-Israel, and then you have the right wing that's not. So basically, what do you think of that phraseology? How do you answer that?
Look, it's a term. To me, it's not a one or the other. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm not a Judeo-Christian. I'm a Christian. Judeo-Christian, I think, is an outlook. It's a worldview. It's there are a lot of similarities. The Old Testament, which forms the major part of the Jewish part, is part and parcel of the Christian belief system as well.
It is.
I don't know, be a Christian and not accept the Old Testament, actually.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah.
Judeo-Christian is the kind of descriptor you'd give for a worldview that revolves around the Bible in general, whether you're talking about the Hebrew Bible or the Christian Bible.
But the right wing gets butthurt. They get butthurt if you say Judeo.
But why? I don't understand that. That just seems like an anti-Jewish thing to me.
It does, doesn't it? How funny. Yes, it does. And I think it's literally a matter of sequence. Judeo came first, Christian came second, Judeo-Christian society. The Old Testament, the Old Commandments are in the Old Testament, so it makes sense that most of our laws are based on that. So Judeo-Christian. It's a very easy thing to reconcile, but it bothers some people to hear the word Judeo. I'm not as easily offended, but some of them are.
I tell you what, I'm looking at some of the comments you've got up here. I'm looking at some of the comments that you've got up here on your page. There are some real nasty commenters that are flaming you there, dear, and me. But,
I know.
Wow.
I think the thing is, if you also look at what you're looking at now on YouTube, all those comments are deleted, but you can still see them because StreamYard doesn't delete in real time. So yeah, but it's okay. I just pray for my haters because the Bible says to love your enemies.
Look at this. Here's one person talking about us and saying Nazis, and the next thing they go on criticizing Jews.
That's retarded.
You couldn't make that stuff up.
Can you see why I've started walking away from like a lot of this? I mean, that's probably a lefty or someone on the right being a dick, but it's just retarded. Like it's actually quite laughable. It makes me laugh, and I'm like, I'm making more of a difference now. I'm expanding my political evolution, and some people don't like it. Let's have a look if there's any genuine questions. Otherwise, I think we're done. Just going down. A question for George. Stephen Roberts, the man I was in love with 3 weeks ago. The major issue with manufacturing in Australia is environmental costs associated with manufacturing, waste disposal, carbon tax, etc. Do you see a way to reduce those costs? That's a good question, Stephen. Well done.
That's a great question.
It is, yeah. He's a smart fella.
Look, we're a high wage economy, and we want to remain a high wage economy because we're used to the first world standard of living. And the only way you can have a high wage economy is if other input costs are low. So, unfortunately, we've got high electricity costs. That is killing business, and then we've got high regulatory costs, particularly the environmental regulatory costs. There's got to be some middle ground. Sure, we can't let the situation where anything goes and it doesn't matter what outcome we've got for the environment. But I think that the pendulum swung too far, and we're going to have to rip some of this these regulations off business and off industry if we want our country to grow, and if we don't want a situation where basically we can't compete with anything, because if you're going to be a high wage country and a high input cost country, what's your competitive advantage? You got none. We're only 26 million people, so we actually, this figure is true. We produce food. We produce enough food for about 75 million people, so nearly 3 times the amount of people in Australia. So either we're going to all have to start eating a lot more, or we have to be competitive. We have to have our costs down. So when we export this, it's going to be competitive on the international market.
That makes
How
sense.
we get there, that's another question.
That is another question. We'll do 3 more questions, guys. So if I don't ask your question, I apologize, but we need to finish up. So Jasmine Murray, my brother is a traditionalist but gay and now married to his partner. They are conservative and wealthy and would make good parents. Do you think they should be allowed to adopt? That's a controversial question, Jasmine. Go ahead, answer.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'd be interested to know, given that your brother's traditionalist and he's conservative, what his thoughts are, whether he think that he should adopt.
That would be
actually,
true.
It's to say whether they should be allowed to adopt. In fact, quite right now in Australia, they are legally able to adopt a child. So I do not have the ability to say whether they are allowed to adopt or not. They are allowed to adopt because that's the law throughout Australia. I would just say this, that I think that every child deserves to have a connection with a biological mother and a biological father. There are some big exceptions to that rule, very, very exceptions to the rule, but I'm not sure that, that just simply our desires as adults should be the exceptions to that rule. Bless you.
Thank you. Never rest. Mr. Christensen, does Mr. Christensen disagree with his party's support of free trade agreements, particularly the TPP? How are these compatible with, I can't read, with a strong manufacturing sector in Australia? I think my eyes need to check.
So, look, I wasn't a big fan of the TPP. I'm still not a big fan of the TPP as it has come through, for many reasons other than just the trade issues. Donald Trump was against it too, and I think that the reasons that he were against it were very valid. I think that we need to trade as a nation. There is no, I just said that figure before. For instance, in agriculture, we produce 3 times the amount we consume, so we have to trade. But what you don't do, and I'm not going to answer your question fully here because I don't have the answer for it, what you don't do is make yourself subservient to a country like China because of your trade expenditure, I guess. And that's, again, going back to that inquiry that I was talking about that I'm going to run. That's the whole point of that, is really we should trade with a country like China, but we should never take orders from a country like China. And if they want to start using their trade dollars to make us take orders, then I guess we need to revisit that relationship then. And the manufacturing question is a very big issue. I mean,
it is, isn't it? We should be manufacturing everything here, not in China.
We should be. We need to find the niches where we have some competitive edge. Very difficult to have a competitive edge, as I said, when you've got high wage, which we don't want to get rid of, but you've also got high electricity costs and other high input costs. So it's going to be a tough one. The governments are looking at what elements of manufacturing can we re-establish in Australia, and it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. So might take 1 or 2 more, dear.
Oh, you want to take one or two more? Okay. I saw one from Deanna that I thought was good, but I wasn't going to ask it because I thought we were done.
Will the federal government be able to push against states who are overarching during COVID? There's a question that was just there that about. You just had it up on
then
screen
we'll do
before.
this one. We'll do this one later. Oh, go ahead. Answer what you said. I'll leave the question on screen.
You're right. I think the Prime Minister is going to have to take a very, very strong stand against states that want to use an old phrase, dilly-dally around with the restrictions when he is saying and the Chief Medical Officer is saying, well, let's move on. I think that point's going to come quicker than where we say, let's move on. And states that want to hold back people or business are going to be called out. So go on. Was there a question that was just up there, or it wasn't?
It wasn't actually a question, but so that's why I took it down. But it was basically something. Here it is. It wasn't a question, so that's why I took it down. Having a conversation about the differences in religions is not criticizing Jews. It's imparting knowledge about the differences in people 2,000 years ago and today. But I think most Christians, it's not really, it's more of a statement. That's why I took it down. But we can criticize Judaism. We can criticize Islam. We should be able to criticize Mormonism. The only religion that you get in trouble for criticizing, I mean, there's a whole entire musical mocking Mormons called the Book of Mormon. I doubt highly that there'd ever be a musical called the Book of Islam. The Book of Islam. I can't imagine it.
There wouldn't be.
No, there wouldn't be.
It's great. Well, no, wait. There's been a couple of episodes on South Park for it. Maybe not the musical part of it, but there's certainly been a couple of
that mock Islam. Really? We'll put on them.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, I didn't realize that. No, they don't, and they're actually they are actually Republicans.
Libertarian.
They are Trump supporters. They're libertarian. Okay, I didn't realize that. But I do know that they came out as Trump supporters and they got a lot of hate. But they're like, well, we don't give an F. And then they just kept going and it was fine. And their show is more popular than ever. But yeah, I've had a great time. I really appreciate your humor and your candor. You've been lovely. Oh, my God. What is this? Okay, this is it's $5.
This guy's told us the name of that film.
Oh, okay. So is that what it's called?
To you, is it?
That's $5 to me because you didn't know the name of the film. So
there you go.
Thanks for the $5.
That's great. That definitely is my favorite Van Damme movie. Target.
I don't remember any Van Damme movies. I remember watching them as a kid, but my favorite movie that's a Sylvester Stallone movie, I can tell you, is Demolition Man, because it's like about society and you're not even allowed to touch each other anymore. Abortion is illegal, crime isn't allowed, and everyone lives underground and eats rats. That's a good movie.
And he fights Wesley Snipes. Is that the one?
Yes, that's right. You remember. Exactly. I love that movie. It's really good. I watch it. It's one of those movies I watch when, you know how sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know what to watch. And you just go back to that.
Yeah.
Well, I do.
And he makes virtual love with Sandra Bullock. It's a bizarre movie. That same sort of politically correct dystopian theme is in a couple of science fiction movies. Starship.
Tell me.
If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. And the subtext of Starship Troopers is, yep, we've got a really, really weird politically correct government in place. The same with
hang on, I can't hear you.
Out? Hello.
I can't hear anything. Are you talking?
Can people hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm talking. I can hear you, yes.
I can't hear anything. Hello?
Okay. Maybe it's a
what
sign
happened? I can't hear anything.
I'm not sure, dear. They can both hear. That's the people can hear us. So
hello? Can you hear me?
Anyway,
I can't hear anything.
I can hear you, yes.
I can't hear anything. Hang on.
So anyway,
Can you
while
speak?
Dia's thinking about that, as I said, I can speak. Can you hear me?
Can't hear anything.
No. Starship
can't hear
Troopers
anything.
and the other was RoboCop. Go back and watch those movies. They have great subtext
Hello?
which tells you that there's a politically correct dystopia going on. So
Oh, I can hear you.
we should probably wrap it up, Dia.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Literally for that last. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to put my. Yeah,
That's
it's just
all
my
right.
thing. My earpiece fell. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I was
Okay.
continuing to entertain your viewers with a whole heap of these politically correct dystopian movies and pop culture references because I'm such a nerd.
No, that's good. I love that you're that kind of a nerd because I'm that type. I like Demolition Man. I like those sorts of movies. I'm so sorry that my earpiece fell out and I was just like, oh, I'll just listen to him from the computer, and then I couldn't hear you anymore. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I'll let you go. A lot of people want to know what you think of George Pell, but if you don't really care, we'll wrap it up and we're done.
Yeah, I think the High Court's found him not guilty. That's what I think about George Pell.
Same. All right. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Next week I have Dave Lee. He's a YouTuber. I think he's been on The Unshackled before, so I'll be interviewing him. And this Friday I'll be doing a sort of girl session on my channel with my friend Diane, so you guys can ask all your questions for her because I know you guys have become interested in her just generally speaking throughout the years that I've had her on. They can still hear. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to add your podcast link in the description box below after we're done, if that's okay with you. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you giving me your time.
Thank you very much, Dia. Thank you to your viewers.
And I'm sorry for the harsh commentary that you saw.
That's all right.